So as I mentioned earlier, we can establish the dates from the time of Abraham, 1,800. Before that, we don't know. So Abraham is in the book of Genesis. He appears in Genesis chapter at the end of chapter 11, beginning of chapter 12. So Genesis 1 to 11 is a long, long, long historical period, many hundreds, maybe thousands of years. Yeah. So Genesis 1 to 11, compressed. So, but we cannot put the dates there. For example, Noah, we don't know when that happened. The surest we can be of is Abraham, that time. Right. Okay. Any questions?
Yes, Father.
Yes.
Before I heard the years, it's not 365 days. I don't know if that's true. When you say the
No. Actually, but that before the calendar was actually determined by the church, by the Pope. It's not that 365 and 1/4. The one who established 365 and 1/4 days is actually the church. Before it was the Julian calendar by the emperor, and that was corrected eventually by the Pope, because they noticed that the seasons were not adjusting, so you had to adjust to the seasons, to the cycle. That's why in the Chinese calendar it's irregular, because you have to adjust. So it was Pope Gregory, what's called the Gregorian calendar, who finally was able to determine the exact number of days there is according to our way of measuring the year. Okay, if you go to Rome, you go to the old basilicas, the old churches. For example, one of the basilicas is called Saint Mary of the Angels. It used to be an old Roman bath. The Romans went to the bath like a public swimming pool. When later on, the part of that bath became a basilica, a big church. And then you will see when you enter that there are certain inscriptions on the floor and even lines that don't follow the church but go diagonally like that. And on the ceiling there is there's a hole. There's a light passes through, and through that light they're able to measure the dates, because it follows the line or something like that. To determine the dates. It's very interesting. It's very interesting when you study these things. Yeah. So you see that they were really interested in establishing scientifically the dates. Yeah, it was also in the interest of the church.
So the Gregorian calendar is from the Pope?
Yes, Pope Gregory. When you read this book of Thomas Woods, you will say, wow. So you can see that's why he says how much civilization, Western civilization, owes to the Catholic Church. And then also, for example, why is it that, how come Western science developed so fast? Actually, Chinese science was quite advanced when Christianity started. Chinese science was more advanced than Western science. When the Westerners arrived in Beijing, for example, they were impressed. However, at a certain point, Western science advanced so fast, and what was the reason for that? Actually, there is, you can look at it from the point of view of our faith. Why? Because we believe that God created the universe, the world, okay? And because we believe that He is a wise God, He has an intellect. Therefore, when He makes things, He does it according to a plan. There is a logic in the things that He does. Right? So, if there is a logic in those things that He has done, that means we can discover that logic, because we are also intellectual beings. And this is why the Christianity and the early Christian, the scientists, those who study this, the scholars, they knew that they could discover the relationship between phenomena, and they would be able to describe them and even describe the laws. That's why we have the scientific laws. For example, law of gravity. Why is it that every time something falls, it falls at exactly the same acceleration, rate of acceleration? It's uniform all throughout. So, because they were convinced that there is a logic here, then once you establish the law, you can apply that to all the others. And that is because that thing that you see, you're measuring, came from somebody who is intelligent, who's God. Now, what if the things that happen around us is not a product of one intelligent being, but is the result of the caprice of different gods? Then you cannot find a law, because, oh, that happens because these gods wanted it that way. Don't try to explain it. Alright? Or what if it just happened by chance? Then again, you cannot study it. Oh, this time it happened this way, next time it won't be like that. Right? So the faith actually provided a background for the scientists to say, well, if that the word that came from God who's intelligent, then we must be able to study this word and discover the laws, the laws that there are. That's how science really developed very fast.
We need to study more.
Yes, it's a very interesting thing, to study these things. I'm still reading the book of Thomas Woods, and I'm discovering many things. For example, he explains the idea of human rights. Where did this all begin? This idea of human rights. It began when Spain conquered South America. They made colonies there, right? And then when the Spaniards went to America, they brought priests with them. And then the priests who were with them, they noticed how the natives were being treated. And they said, there's something wrong here. They're not being treated fairly. And so they went to the king, they reported to the king and said, they're not treating the slaves properly. And they had to defend the rights of the natives, saying that they are also humans, therefore they have the same rights as us. So that is how the slavery was abolished. That's how that concept of human rights came about. Human rights. So these people have rights. That's why also I think in the colonies of Spain, for example, and Portugal, when they went there, they intermarried with the people. They did not separate themselves from the people, because they are also humans, So they have the same rights as us, and so we're all equal. We're all the same. Yeah. So again, that's the result of the Catholic faith. Knowing that we are all children of God. Great.
Before we have, I don't know if I'm correct, they call sometimes the Catholic a Roman Catholic.
Roman, yes, because we are based in Rome. Because the Pope is in Rome.
So, I did this, no difference with the Catholic and the Roman Catholic.
It's exactly the same. Okay, I understand. Because some people, they say they're Catholic,
Yes.
but actually they're from England. They're Anglicans. Right? That's why we say Roman. Roman. Roman Catholic.
To differentiate.
Yeah. Because when you're in England, for example, in London, they say that sometimes it's not easy to find out which is the real Catholic church. Sometimes you enter, it's actually an Anglican church. They're very, very similar. Okay. Well, the rest is for you to read for many, many years. Many years. There's actually a book in Chinese. It's called Tinji Kaosi, and it's the history of the Catholic Church. 4 volumes. But there's one which is only 1 volume, much more simple. But there's one which is 4 volumes. They just they've just reprinted 4 in these past 2-3 years.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's good reference.
Okay.
Yeah, because sometimes people will ask you these questions. Oh, what happened? For example,
Mm.
another question that people ask: Inquisition.
Mm.
This one is something that people. There's a lot of mistaken ideas there, or the Crusades.
Mm.
Subsequent.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
there's a lot of questions about this.
Yeah.
Actually, there were some crusades which were not very good, But what was the purpose of the crusade? Sometimes people think that it's just to invade.
Mm.
It's not. It was to defend,
Mm.
to get back the Holy Land. But anyway, these are the kinds of questions that you get interested in it when people ask you, and then you start reading about it.
Mhm.
Yeah.